Hi there, this video is in response to several questions that I received around how to do open-ended data analysis with more than one response on a questionnaire. So if you haven't watched the other video, you may want to start with that first. It may make more sense, and there's a link right here available for that. If you've already seen the other video, then this is sort of a diversion or a subset of the first video. So going back to the example that was used to illustrate how to do open-ended data analysis, this is the Campus Life survey that I use as an example. And the open-ended question is number 6. And if someone answered this questionnaire, they would fill out their answers here in this slot. So the questions I've received is, what if someone gave 2 suggestions? So for example, McDonald's on campus and better Wi-Fi. How would you then handle entering those 2 responses and doing the data analysis when there are more than one response per questionnaire? So say we were entering our data, and in this case, this reflects the questionnaire number. So in this case, we have 15 questionnaires because we've got 15 in our sample. Say, for example, questionnaire number 14, the person had said free concerts as well as better Wi-Fi. What I would simply do is enter each of the responses. I would insert a row, and I wouldn't add a number here because this is also still related to questionnaire number 14. And the reason that you want to keep the number related to the actual responses is if at some point you realize you've made a mistake or you have a query about, did I enter my data correctly? You want to be able to go back to your paper version of your questionnaire and check back that you've entered the actual response on that questionnaire aligned with what you have in your spreadsheet. So they've asked for better Wi-Fi. So I enter that here, and number 15 may have done the same thing as well, and they may have said more bus service, and maybe they want to see Subway on campus. So Subway sandwich location. I did not need to enter a row because there's nothing under number 15. My next step then is to look at all these responses and figure out, well, what are some of the common themes that we're seeing here? When we do open-ended data analysis, what we're trying to do is group into categories our responses so they are meaningful for our survey. So some of the themes that I'm seeing are things like live music, free concerts. So I'm going to create a theme that I call entertainment. I'm also seeing quite a lot around food, McDonald's, better food options. So I'm going to just give a theme, food. That's one of the categories. I'm seeing people are responding with quite a few responses. I'm also seeing items related to transportation, carpooling, transit, more bus service. So I'm going to create a transport theme. And then there are also several requests or several comments or suggestions related to computer services. So better Wi-Fi, better computers. So I'm just going to say computers. We can always come back and change it if needed, but generally those are just easy to identify immediately. The next step then is to assign a code to each of those themes. So let's keep it simple: E for entertainment, F for food, T for transport, C for computers. Now what I'm going to do is assign one of these codes to each of these responses. So entertainment, food, transportation, food, food. Now that I have those codes, what I want to be able to do then is say, well, how many people actually responded or had suggestions related to entertainment? How many had suggestions related to food, etc. So I'm going to calculate my responses. And the first thing that we talked about doing is doing frequency. We're just using descriptive statistics. So all we're looking at then is such as frequency, proportion, average, maximum, minimum, and so forth, like we talked about in class. So in order to do my frequency, what I can do is I can put in my, use the same labels and then drag down. And I've got my 4 categories or 4 themes. And then I want to actually do the count. So now what I want to do is I want to ask Excel to actually count the number of times that we've gotten suggestions or suggestions have been provided that relate to entertainment, food, transportation, and so forth. So I'm going to use the count if formula. So type in count if, open brackets. I first need to tell Excel where to look for the information. So I need to provide the range. I want Excel to look at the answers or the responses here, comma, open inverted commas. I want to tell Excel now what criteria to actually count, or to look for, sorry. And that's an E for entertainment, closed inverted commas, and close brackets. Hit enter. So what Excel is returning is that within this range, there are 3 E's. I want to do the same for food. So I can tell Excel, I don't want you to change the range you're looking at. So I use the dollar signs to do that. And then I can drag down. But I have to remember to change the letter or the code that I wanted to count for, because here's what's telling me. It keeps telling me, yes, there are 3. But I want to know how many times F is counted. So I just need to go into the formula, change the F, go into the formula, change to T, go into the formula, and change to C. So now what Excel is able to tell me is that there are 3 suggestions related to entertainment, 5 suggestions related to food, 5 suggestions related to transportation. Now what I always like to do is do a bit of a check. So I'm going to put in the total to see how many responses I've received. And that formula is going to be sum, open brackets. I want you to sum Excel. And now we've got 17, which absolutely makes sense because even though we only have 15 questionnaires, we've got extra, so to speak, responses. So now when I want to do proportion, which is the same idea, which is often more useful than frequency, I want to know what percentage of respondents have provided suggestions related to entertainment and so forth. Then what I'm going to do is use this total rather than 15 to be able to understand the percentage. And now we're going to do our proportion. So in this case, we want to be able to find out what proportion of respondents provided entertainment. So we want to divide the entertainment suggestions by the total suggestions. And we see that 18%. I can do that again with the drag and drop. I go to my formula. I don't want to change the total cell. I want to keep using that. And I drag and drop down, and that shows me. And again, I want to just do a tally just to make sure that I've done it correctly. If I do the sum, it should add up to 100%. And it does. So I know I haven't missed anything. There hasn't been any issue with any of my formulas. So that in a nutshell is basically how to deal with multiple responses when you're dealing with open-ended questions.